One. So welcome back to the Dogs and Deadlifts podcast. Today we have a special guest from all the way from Canberra, Australia, Dave Nixon. Welcome.
Hey mate, how are you?
Mate, it's been fantastic. Super excited to have you on here. I know that we've haven't caught up for some time. How you been traveling?
I actually have been traveling. That's the which is nice in this sort of not post-COVID era, but definitely nicer than being in lockdown. That's for sure. So I was up almost up near your way, but also not because you're at the top fucking end of Australia. But things have been going well. There's lots on. We're looking at moving the gym at the moment, so we're just finding out the logistics of all that, among many other projects that I'm balancing. So
yeah, man. You and I have known each other for some time. Probably I don't know, at least 2-3 years now, maybe. I first reached out. So it's certainly an honor and pleasure to have you.
2017.
Was it? Yeah.
nearly 4 years. I was in. It was my last trip in the States.
Yep.
So
for sure.
Anyway, it's just I was thinking as you were talking.
No, you're right, and certainly an honour to have you here. As a guest, and to talk about a number of subjects and a bit of work that you've been doing. But before we even jump into that, if that's cool, can you give us a little bit of a rundown on yourself, and of course your little mini schnauzer as well.
Mini schnauzer, hey? Yeah. Everyone wants to know about mini schnauzer. I don't blame them. So let's start with him, hey?
Yeah,
let's start with
sure.
little Petey. So, well, the joke was initially to get a Scottish Terrier and call him Pete, P-E-A-T, after the idea of a peaty whiskey, which I'm not opposed to a delightful dram or two, and that was the kind of joke. And then we saw a schnauzer in Sydney. We were up there for a course, my partner and I, one time, and then she surprised me on my 30th birthday, which is just over 2 years ago now, with a 12-week-old little black mini schnauzer, and that's Pete. And so he's been at the gym here. So I own Functional Fitness Australia here in Canberra. He's been here pretty much every single day since he was 12 weeks old, and he's a very good boy, although he did get a raised voice from me just before the call because I was running late, and I'm like, upstairs, come on. And he's got his toy in his mouth at the bottom of the stairs looking at me. And I'm like, not playing, buddy, upstairs. So he's a good boy. He's an absolute delight to have here at the facility as well. Like all dogs do, he's matured into not being as annoying. But he's a really good dog. I would absolutely get another mini schnauzer.
Sorry, mate. Sure. I remember when you first got him, and this is it just popped into my head just recently. You sent me a photo of him. Look, he looks very, very sharp now, but I don't know if you remember when he had his first haircut.
Oh, mate, we had to put him into witness protection. They fluffed that up literally, and they didn't even own it. I don't think that company is still operating. And it's not because I gave him a Facebook review. Well, I probably should have. It was the way the manager dealt with it, really. But anyway, so they cut off everything before and after. This before photo of this over fluffy 6-month-old mini schnauzer, right? That's just got all this like gruff about him, and then he just looked like this pretend cross poodle Sean sheep. And they cut all these like around his paws. So he had no kilt left, right? Skirt, but he's a boy, so it's a kilt. Yep. I've got apparently problems with that. And so they shaved all the fur around his feet as well, or his paws. You get it. And like it looked like, the kind of furniture that your grandma had, where it had the little stoppers on the bottom of the wooden legs.
Yep.
And so it looked like it was almost floating a little bit. Yeah. So this is this poor little dude. Had to call him Stefan for a while or something, but he was...
It was hilarious. I remember you texted me the photos and you said, this is definitely not right.
They handed him back to me and they're like, here he is, thanks. And the company was, it rhymed with Vogue, let me put it that way. And I'm like, this isn't what you and I discussed. And anyway, they're like, oh yeah, it doesn't look like a normal schnauzer cut. I was like, you fucking dead serious? So that's Pete. He's matured into his his
For
fur
sure.
now.
And he's looking sharp as ever. I seen Gina send me some photos yesterday, and he's looking sharp as, mate.
Yeah, so he needs a haircut now because
Mm-hmm.
in the Canberra winter it does
Mm-hmm.
get cold, and so he does need all his fur, and he's okay.
Mm-hmm.
But in this Canberra summer, he gets boiling, so we have to keep him pretty short. So we'll have to give him one more cut before the winter coat,
Yep.
literally winter coat, and he'll be a happy boy. He's just sitting next to me, splooting with his bandana at the moment. So
Fantastic, mate. So a little bit about yourself. Obviously, Functional Fitness Australia.
I started working in the fitness industry when I was 15.
Mm-hmm.
2004. I started just doing a paperwork job actually, and then I started training people on a traineeship. Yeah, when I was 16, and then from that facility I was working at, I ended up managing that one at 18, and then managing the 3 at 19. And I worked a lot of hours around college. It's hard to say I finished college, but I got my certificate. That's all that probably mattered in the end. Mind you, I haven't written a resume since, really, so
Doesn't matter.
I just don't think it suits me. But the key point there was by about 21, I was like, no, this doesn't really feel like I can progress any further. This doesn't feel like the only way to do things. I remember being 19 and watching someone on the gym floor and looking at them do these like robotic, tedious movements with their headphones on, staring at themselves in a mirror 5 inches away, chewing gum before they put down some fluorescent drink. And I'm like, at that stage in my life, I was like, there's just something that's just not complete with this idea. Like, it's not normal for a mammal to do this in an air-conditioned room under fluorescent lights. And as I've grown, I have no problems with bodybuilding. My philosophy and methodology is heavily based upon what is the experience a person wants to experience more of, right? And I've got mates that bodybuild, that powerlift, that do all sorts, some that don't do any of it, and they're letting their training dictate the experiences that they feel most fulfilled in. And that's really the core of what health is. But back then, in those days, it was just like, what the fuck is this? Like, this is not normal for any mammal to do this.
Yeah.
And so I ended up leaving there and going to another business for a short period of time. And same deal. It was just like, this isn't me either. And so I started what was then known as Funk Fitness Australia. Now as the company is called Functional Fitness Australia, but everyone still calls us Funk or Funk Fitness or whatever. I started that at the age of 22, and myself and 6 clients in the corner of an MMA gym, next to the shitters, to clarify. So not a very popular place for some of my clients' wives. They didn't come until I moved facilities. And so from there, I've had had 2 years there, then 8 years in a different facility, had another gym, closed it down, and learned a lot of lessons in the meantime. So
Awesome.
That's
and 10, mate, and 10 years. So I want to say congratulations on that one. 10 years.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it was 10 years is weird. What was weirder was and it was only the day before our 10-year birthday. I thought about the coaches that we had, and I was like, fuck, I've got 2 guys here that have been here since day one. So it was celebrating 10 years, but 2 of our coaches have been here for 10 years. Even though one was a training partner and one was a client, but I hired him back in my old job. So he was a part of the community that was integral anyway. And he came on as a trainer pretty much straight away. And that was a really nice sentiment, because it was like, I went and got these guys some watches, and it was like that's actually, to me, that's what's meaningful. So 10 years is interesting.
Yeah, no, I got to see the photos, but great night by the looks of it, celebrating that one.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing for me, I'm probably more enthusiastic and motivated about the business and where we're going now, among our other projects, than I have been in years. And so I'm looking forward to the next stage of what Functional Fitness Australia is moving into.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm in this weird pattern at the moment of just holding and finding out new locations and changing our business model and all that sort of fun stuff.
Yeah, awesome. So I just wanted today to obviously, we've got a couple of things or quite a lot we can talk about, but we wanted to jump into the book, man. I'd love to, for my listeners to know a little bit about, you can see all my my little notes sticking out of the book there, Mining Yourself. Let's sort of run through, how that came about and a little bit about it, if that's cool.
Of course. It came about because I went in to delete an email account, which is, I'm not sure if you've heard this, but I've talked about it a few times. I'm like, oh, I shut down this email account that I haven't used for ages. And out of all the hundreds of emails that were probably spammed through there was one in the most recent 25 emails or something that was from a guy called Gander from a company called Publishizer. And it must have said something like, are you interested in writing a book? Something along those lines. Mm-hmm. And so it got my attention out of all the spammy emails that I got. And what I later found out was Gander's role at Publishizer. And Publishizer is an online company that helps aspiring authors crowdfund their book. And so they basically give you this format of going, give it a title, make a video for it, write a chapter, write a synopsis, who are the competitors, all these sorts of things. Then you got a month to sell as many books as you can. The more books you sell, the bigger the publisher you get in front of. And so there's different tiers of publishing and all this stuff I didn't know. So I just ended up being like, I'll book a call with him. Why not? Like, what am I got to lose? And so I spoke to Gander and went down that route and sold enough pre-orders to get in front of a traditional publisher, which means that they own the rights. They take on all the responsibilities of the book, and I get a royalty. And so otherwise it goes into more like self-publishing and similar. Yep. And they're in Germany. And so I got on the phone with them. We got along. They agreed to take the book on. And from there, it was another little interesting period because I signed the book in September 18. A week later, two of my business partners finished up. They moved on. Yep. And I had a lot of work to get the business back out of a bit of debt in the next 6 months. And that's when I also got Pete, who was not the goodest of boys.
Bringing a puppy in.
Oh, mate, tell you what. And I was speaking to Gina, my partner, this morning, actually, because we're now both working the business and have for a little while. And I'm like, I still don't think you realize how much work I do. She goes, no, I do now. But maybe when I used to work somewhere else, I was like, what the fuck does he do all day? Oh, man. And during this period was where I had to, we ended up getting back out of like 40K worth of debt, I think, during that 6 months. And tax debt, actually, and a bit of other issues that businesses can run into. I had this puppy that was shitting on the floor and trying to write a book all at the same time. It was quite a ride. Yeah. So that's kind of how the book came to be. Yeah. The message that's clear for me in the book, and I'm fortunate enough, I've got a great publisher, so I've just signed on for 3 more titles over the next 24 months. Yep.
Fantastic, well done, and once again, congratulations. Yeah. There's lots of kudos coming to you today, mate. Awesome.
Thanks, mate. Some days I need it more than others, trust me. So the book is offering an idea around what health could mean to someone, and looking at different aspects of what health aspects make up health. And so health is not just this idea of here's your diet plan and here's your exercise plan, and that if you hit these metrics, then you're a healthy individual. Congrats. It doesn't mean that if you lose weight, then you're going to be a better human. None of that sort of stuff. And there's an example that I offer in there to give a slightly different perspective on how we can see health, and not just the positive side of mental health. I think one of the challenges with positivity is that it's actually blind in its own negativity. And what I mean by that is if people are always trying to put a positive spin on something, they're actually being negative towards what's perceived to be negative emotions, but these are normal emotions. It's our subjective values, whether we paint something positive or negative. And so the difficulty of that is that we sit in this idea of like we should just keep a positive mindset, which is actually the exact same thing as a negative mindset. And because we're setting our mind to just perceive the positivity of something, especially if we're with someone, we're talking with somebody, and they're expressing something that they're challenged by, that they're having to their own existence, they're having to navigate through these challenging periods, and then we're trying to spin it to be positive. We're no longer there for them as they are as a human being. We're being there for our values, and that's actually quite a negative experience for them. And so there's these sort of things that we offer rather than simply eat the right foods, do exercise, fucking and think positive, and then you're a good person. It's like, well, not quite. A lot of people chase metrics for the hope of happiness, and then arrive and realize it's only fleeting because they've built out this conditional idea that they're not enough unless they achieve something that's
For sure. And that's, I suppose, sort of leads me into what I was thinking about, why the first part of the book there is why you broke up with the health and fitness industry, so, metrics, a lot of people just thinking that it's, hey, I'm going to do a 12-week challenge and I'm going to be fit and I'm going to be healthy for the rest of my life. Yeah. And it's so much more.
Sure. And the challenge may kickstart an interest, so to speak, or a pathway for somebody to learn more about their health. The fitness industry, from my experience, helps to create long-term psychological issues, provides people with short-term physical solutions, and that in itself creates repeat customers that become dependent on the industry. The offer that I'm inviting people to consider is that you don't need the fitness industry. If anything, the fitness industry needs you, and it needs you to be codependent for it to continue to be an industry. So to use the industry, define what health means for you. And that means, yes, taking all the metrics as well. Like, that's fine. It's more so when we lean on objectivity as if that is the only thing that matters. And the example of that is, I'll give you the example in my book about a client of mine. However, in a book called The Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van der Kolk. He's a psychiatrist, and he uses the example of one of his colleagues that works with a client that loses a bunch of weight over a year doing this supplementation program, and then puts it on, which is something that we've all heard before. But the reason why she put it back on was really interesting. And it was when her colleague mentioned to her, hey, you're more attractive than you used to be. These are my paraphrasing words. More attractive than you used to be. We should consider an intimate relationship. Now, in her younger age, she was sexually abused, which actually forced her. Well, that was one of the reasons for her to become overweight, because if she was overweight, then men left her alone. And so her actually being overweight was a solution to a different problem. But from the eyes of fitness, her problem is being overweight. But that's actually a solution. And so we're missing health as a whole for her, and we're actually missing the person. And so the fitness industry can sometimes reduce things down to people being objects of information, rather than, yes, there's information there, yes, there's the objectivity there, but also the subject in communication or in interpretation. And so when we learn how to define health for ourselves, it doesn't mean that we're just ignoring the data. It means we're integrating it into what's really important. What are the experiences I want to have more of in life? And what do I need to do to be able to have that? And some people get out-exercised. They out-exercise what they actually need to do for what they want to do in life. So use the fitness industry to do what you want to do more of in life. Make sure that you're 1 hour in the gym or at the tennis court or walk in the mountain, whatever you're doing, is helping to positively impact you 23 hours outside of that facility. The gym is a supplement to your life. It's when we chase numbers as if we're achieving something for a little pat on the back, that has an end road. And people I went down that road. I invite people to do so, but it's the idea of going, how is this actually fueling what you want to do outside of the gym?
For sure. And I take myself as a good example, and I've chased numbers. The boys are, twin boys now. They're just about to hit 12 months, 4-year-old, 5-year-old daughter. I want to be able to, go scootering, go running with them, and get up off, simple things like even just getting up off the fucking floor or getting down onto the floor and rolling around. Some people take those things for granted sometimes, and certainly I've had to change my mentality and my thinking about certain things as well.
It comes down to exactly what you're saying there around what are the experiences you want to have more of in life. And it doesn't mean that you shouldn't barbell deadlift or barbell squat or compete in powerlifting. It doesn't mean any of that. What it means is the clearer we get on what it is that we want to be able to do more of, the easier it is to prescribe what type of movement, what type of kinesthetic development and self-awareness, that practices that we can do to be able to do that more often. And for a lot of people, it is about one of two things. One is either creating more memories, which is usually participating more in life, or the way that we choose to contribute.
Sure. And that actually, that popped into my head. You know, a lot of people don't look deep sometimes and go, you know, I know that you've talked about Simon Sinek and, you know, the why and the purpose of some, you know, your life. And like you said, there's two primary things that you focus on there. But, you know, I've had to sort of, if people aren't familiar with it, great TED Talk, and you know, I know that's been a bit of an experience in your life as well.
Yeah, I remember really watching that. It's the TED Talk's called "How Great Leaders Inspire Action." His initial book was called "Start with Why." Simon Sinek. He's written a few others as well. So he's a great thinker, and his thinking is heavily based upon leadership, which is heavily based upon people. So I think one of the core differences within the fitness industry, within the people on the ground floor that are working the floor, is that they have an opportunity to connect and build these really impactful relationships that can help people create more of the experiences they want to have in life. The difficulty is a lot of the big box gyms or the commercial facilities, like whatever, it doesn't matter which name it is, you can name it. They're actually not interested in all their clients getting results. And there's a couple of reasons for that. And it's not good or bad. It's just how those facilities run, is that they can't really uphold more than 15 to 20% of their clients coming in at any given time. And they actually require a large, significant chunk of members not to come in order to be able to run a profitable business. And so often they're not owner operated either, which is, once again, neither right nor wrong. It's just how that facility type works. And so that's actually a subscription company within the fitness industry. What I'm encouraging a lot of smaller boxes to do is to position themselves as educational facilities. And that's really what Health IQ that you mentioned before, and what's been the extension of that, which is called Flow Intelligence. So that's really what that points to. And so rather than being a subscription company within the fitness industry, you start to become an educational facility within the people industry. And a part of that is of course fitness, but it's actually known as somatic intelligence, which is body intelligence.
Awesome. So I wanted to, you know, get into a little bit more of, so the Health IQ has moved into Flow. You know, can you tell us a little bit more about how you've created that system and what that obviously encompasses a little bit more? I know that we've, you know, we've got a little bit of an overview in your book here as well, but just for the listeners out there.
Yeah. So Health IQ was the first model from, I remember talking to a mentor of mine years and years ago, and I said, look, this is, you know, from a movement perspective, this is how we see it. You first make the movement safe, so you're moving safely, and then from there you make it strong, and then it's sexy. That was the first initial conversation, and my business partner at the time was like, oh, I really like that idea, let's run with that. And then I'm speaking to her about it. She's like, that's fine, but what does that actually mean, and how do people know when they get there? And I was like, fuck, I have no idea. And so from there evolved Health IQ, which was looking at this move, mind, and mouth, or nutrition, these three stages of development. Later on, that became clear to me that those as stages of development actually meant these are stages to move through, excuse me, rather than things to get right or wrong. And before I move on to Flow Intelligence, I'll break that down a little bit more. And so you look at something such as movement and then safe, strong, sexy. The word strong within that doesn't actually mean more weight on a barbell. The word strong is you have a stronger relationship with your body. And so the other terms that you can use instead of safe, strong, sexy, it's just a nice, easy alliteration. But the way that I'll teach other trainers and coaches is actually gross, subtle, and causal. And so what that means is the first development that people have with building somatic intelligence. And what I mean when I say somatic intelligence is kinesthetic intelligence. So the felt sense of the body, how connected they are to their actual physical body. And then also spatial intelligence. So how wary they are of where they are in space. And so the first stage, when that first comes online for them, as in their awareness, is general in nature. They will say things such as, I can kind of feel it in this area, and they wave their hand over a certain area of their body, or they're like, it's kind of like a, I don't know, like a warm sense, that all their terms are general in nature.
Yeah.
And the more that as a coach can help work with that person so they build up a decent kinesthetic awareness or kinesthetic intelligence, as I refer to it, it starts to become more subtle. And so they start to be able to go, I can feel that my right glute does more than my left glute. And they start to realize that I feel like my traps are really tight today. They start to get more subtle with their awareness. And this is really important as well, because you're the only person that has your body from when you're 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. Me as a trainer or coach, whatever I want to call myself, telling you the right technique and what to eat during that period is actually not empowering that person at all. That person now creates codependency with me, and they need me there as if I'm their body. I can help support, but what I'm really doing is helping support their own development through their development of kinesthetic intelligence. So once it becomes subtle, later on it becomes causal, and that's when they see their everything relates. There's no gaps, and an example of that is the mechanics next door to me. Sorry about that. The example of that is when they go, I find that when it's end of financial year, I get stressed because I have to do my bookkeeping hours around the family time. I'm not sleeping enough, and then I eat shitter, and then I find that I'm not breathing as deep. I'm sitting down more. My hip flexors get tight, therefore my back gets tight, and then my right glute doesn't do as much as my left glute. And they start to see the causal relationship upon how everything acts upon it, rather than before somebody comes online with this stuff, they go, I hurt my back in the gym. Did you hurt your back in the gym? Was that actually where it happened? Or was it from the progressive overload over years of you not actually knowing any idea about your posture and how to actually create tension to match a task? Because you've been relying on someone else for you to do it right. I'm going to tell you how to do it right. And then you're going to need me to be here all the time. There's your codependency. There's your fitness industry creating this reliance upon itself, which is false. It's a house of cards.
For sure. And certainly that awareness, and also, not necessarily, that terminology, but, just being able to communicate that, is certainly a benefit for both parties. There's so many benefits there. Just like I said, just the communication factor.
Massively. Yeah. And a big part of that then comes into this, which has evolved into flow intelligence, with going, from my experience working with thousands of people over the years, firstly, it's explained in the book, actually. It's called the 3-year email. It's when somebody actually goes, thank you, because of the last 3 years or whatever it may be, I've been able to have ski without knee pain. I've been able to, spend the whole weekend out on the donut behind the boat and not be able, I've been able to participate more. I've been able to experience more. I've been able to do these things that I value, where I experience states of flow. That's explained best by Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, who's a psychologist who did a lot of study on states of flow. In short, a state of flow is where the challenge or the difficulty of a particular task and in my skill are kind of like constantly teetering, where the challenge is increased, but my skill then evolves. And what that allows me to do is to be fully engrossed in the task that I enjoy. There's fulfillment in the task. There's the complete loss of self-rumination. So I'm not talking to myself or talking at myself or criticizing. I'm fully in the task. And this can happen at work. This can happen at play. It doesn't happen laying down on the beach, because there's no challenge in doing that.
Damn.
Yeah. So we can enjoy it, but over some point we get bored because the challenge is so low and our skill for laying on the beach is usually really high, especially if there's shade for this fucking white boy. But
mate, I'm white as these days too.
Yeah. So the kind of thing there is looking at that going, well, if these are the states of flow, and then how do we then experience these states more often? And then in order to do that, what intelligences do we need to develop through these 3 areas: somatic, and then emotional intelligence, and then nutritional intelligence? How do we develop these? Where do we need to be on this map in order to experience that more often? And so that's where flow intelligence has evolved to allow people to have this freedom to be able to go, what is health for me? What is it I want to experience more of? And then what type of kinesthetic awareness, what type of emotional awareness, what type of nutritional awareness do I need to have to be able to do that more often?
Yeah, awesome. And I love how, like everything, evolves. I believe that if we simply just leave things, or set in stone. Nothing's ever set in stone. When it comes to this type of stuff, we're constantly evolving, and I love it. I get super excited, and always, learning, and people, in my experience, and like I said, just learning, evolving, and moving forward with certain things. So look, I remember I remember the podcast when it was mood prep. Now, smashing it. What you over 700 episodes of your podcast now. And it's evolved as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
Mm,
And
mm,
a big part of that is I'm sure there hasn't been someone that's listened to 700. I know I haven't listened to 700. The point there being is that it's that podcast is five episodes a week, and it's
mm.
approximately 10 minutes or less.
Yep.
And it's offering differing ideas around differing subjects. Sometimes it could be pulling apart a quote in relation to understanding it on a deeper level.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's going through and explaining kinesthetic intelligence.
Yep.
But what it's really offering people is an opportunity to, without sounding corny, but to be able to find and lean into their inner power more often, so that they're becoming aware of when they're handing that over.
Mm.
They're becoming under responsible to what they're really capable of.
And just on the podcast, just while I'm thinking of it, look, hey, we're just about to hit 25 episodes, stoked. Talking to a man with experience who's done 700 plus. You decided to keep the episodes 5 to 10 minutes that you do. Is there any particular reason why, or just small chunks of gold on a daily basis?
I wanted to make it easily accessible for people, and also what's the word, consumable.
Mm-hmm.
And so the other thing is, I remember probably the original idea was because when I went through a really challenging time in my business, in my life, in my mid-20s, and I've had like next to no motivation to get out of bed and go to work at a gym that was really struggling, and it went from like the highest highs to the lowest lows pretty quickly,
Yep.
out of nowhere as well. And so I would listen to differing motivation videos on YouTube in the morning. I'd go for runs before I started work, or train before I started work, because it was just a way to get through it at the time. And so that's where initially mood prep was, this idea of helping people prep their mood for the day. That's evolved into the brand that it is now as well. So that's the reason why I chose 10 to 15, or 10 minutes rather.
Yep.
And the other thing is that it gives people an opportunity to be able to consume a subject and then do something with it. Rather, like this one, we've had heaps of subjects, which is great. It's a great discussion. I enjoy the long form discussions. I would be happy if we picked one subject and just broke it down for an hour and a half. I think there's so much utility to that. At the same time, it's making sure that it's accessible, that it's providing insight, not from my perspective, but offering the person an opportunity to create their own insight, which is actually what insight means. So yeah.
For sure. No, and it's awesome. You're talking about bringing back your musings as well, in the form of podcasts. I enjoy those as well. So, bite-sized chunks, but I also do love to put the earphones in and jump on the bike for an hour or train for an hour and enjoy that as well. The other thing I wanted to touch on, mate, is personality types. type 7 coming at you.
Yeah. Where would you like to start with that,
mate? I suppose, just I know that it's quite detailed, but the different types, I suppose, let's break it down just briefly, and a little bit about each one, and then how we can tap into or find out how we go about finding out about our own personality type, and then using it to as a superpower.
Sure. Mate, it's a good question. I think a couple of things I'd like to frame is there's a variety of different models. some more empirically researched than others. One of the challenges of something like personality types is it depends on what type of lens you're looking through, what type of lens the psychologists or the people that are building out those personality types are looking through as well. The one that I use the most and offer to other people is called the Enneagram. The challenge is that something like the Enneagram can cop a little bit of criticism, like anything can if you search the opposing of anything online. One of the reasons, though, is because the people that are criticizing it are looking at it through a lens that it's not actually trying to be. And what that means is that the Enneagram isn't there to box people into a type. You're a type 1, you're a type D, you're a type blue. It's not doing that. What it's doing is and where it comes from is that personality is not something that we have. Personality is something that we do. And so what that means is that we have lent into potential biases of thinking patterns that have helped develop our personality, keeping in mind the word personality is derived from the word persona, which means the mask we wear at the play. And so the key thing there is that we have learnt these structures to be able to receive love or to feel safe, these sort of core structure needs as a child. And so that's why it's heavily developed in the face of our primary caretakers, because we're usually either take on similar structures to them, which is obvious, like between 0 to 7, you're spending so much time with them, or it's in rejection of them. And so they're usually the two main simple ways to see the structures of personality developing. And so the Enneagram offers this model of nine different types that unfolds into 27 different types. And what it offers is an insight, once again, into the particular patterns, the ego fixations, and the core values of different types. Not to go, you're a type 7, which is for you would be the enthusiast, right? Not to say that's what you are, but rather to point that if you relate to what they're sharing and what a seven is like, then you lean into those values. You value, or another way to put it, you value those types of thinking patterns. And so another way to think about typology is not the behaviors, because any one of the 9 types can help an old lady cross a road. The reason why they do it will point towards their personality structure. And so the intentionality is crucial. And all we're doing is looking at someone as an object of information. We don't get that intentionality. And so then people can look the same for a variety of different reasons. So there are a couple of things that are really important to look at when I refer to things such as personality or personality type indicators. The other thing is above all, it's best to type yourself. What that means is something like the Enneagram is to really read through the literature and what it's offering, and then see what you align with the most. And that's usually what it's pointing out. And I remember reading through the first book on the Enneagram that I read, which was The Wisdom of the Enneagram by Riso and Hudson. Excuse me. And I remember reading through it, and I'd be reading through type 1 and type 2 and type 3. And I'm like, oh, that's that person. Yeah, that's that person. Type 5. I'm like, oh my God, that's that person. And then I got to a type 8 and I was reading it. And then this little voice in my head popped up and goes, yeah, but that's right. And I'm like, oh, there it is. Yep, there's that thing. And I was like, that's really interesting. And so, and there is a personality type indicator test you can do for the Enneagram. It's Raheti, RHETI. It's a Riso Hudson Enneagram type indicator. It's only indicating. And that's why, I mean, I scored high in 7, then an 8, and then a 2, which is the enthusiast, the challenger, and the helper, to give names. And the thing that I relate to and align with the most is actually the 8. When I was a bit younger, probably more so the 7, but that would be a less centered, healthy version of myself, because the Enneagram does show 9 stages of healthiness, because it looks at the person as a dynamic being rather than simply a static, this is a box that you exist in under this personality.
And just on that, so one type does not define you, so you've got obviously other traits in there as well. So can you I suppose cross between a 7, an 8, and a 2, on any given day, depending on external circumstances?
So usually there'll be a core structure,
Mm-hmm.
core personality structure,
Mm-hmm.
and think of them as like thinking patterns that people value.
Mm-hmm.
That's a way to think about it. And then from that core structure, they would have other influences. And so even though I scored low on a type 3, hypothetically, it doesn't mean that the qualities of the type 3, the achiever, doesn't mean I don't have access to them. It's just I don't value them.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have to potentially achieve particular things to get love from my parents when I was younger, which is also true.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, it's not something that I can see it as potentially fake or something along those lines.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas for me to feel safe as a youngster, I had to really lean into being this quite assertive, even aggressive individual. And that's something that I relate to massively. It's also my mum is an 8. She leans whether she fucking realizes it or not, but a healthy 8, because this is the dynamic ability of something like the Enneagram. The healthy 8 actually leans into the 2. So there's an path of integration, a path of disintegration, or you think of it as a path of health or security rather, and a path of stress. And so the 8. The challenger, who's the most surgent and most assertive out of all the types, they when healthy and when well developed and secure within themselves, not within finances or whatever the case might be, within themselves, they take on qualities of the 2, which is the helper. And so the actual most helpful individual out of all of the typologies, if you think of the structures, is a healthy 8. And the reason being is because they want to provide facilities for and opportunities for people to be able to help themselves rather than an average helper that's trying to help everyone else but not themselves. And so there's a certain level of independence that comes with that. And so each type has access to a healthier variation of that type, which looks like different types, and a unhealthier variation. And so the 8, to use it as the example, has access to the 5, which is the investigator, who is the most cerebral, most introverted, not in their body, in their head, out of all of the typologies. These are your engineers, your mathematicians, your scientists. All STEM fields usually are 5s. And so when an 8's under stress, they don't want to be around anyone. They'll tell people to fuck off, and they want to be by themselves, go back and regather and think, how the fuck am I going to get out of this? And then they're ready to move forward again. And so there's variations in this. Whereas, see, if you relate to this, the 7 under stress will go towards what's known as the 1, which is the reformer, who's the most judgmental. These are the rules. This is the right way to do something. They're the activists of all the typologies. And so the 7 under stress goes to 1, but that's when they fucking look in the mirror and be like, you need to fix this shit. You need to sort yourself out, man. This is horseshit. And they're just like this critical voice at themselves because they've just been having too much fun focusing on the next thing, but they haven't been actually looking after what's happening right now. And so, whereas a healthy 7 would take on the qualities of the 5, and so they become a bit more centered in their head rather than always onto the next thing. So not sure if that lands for you or not, Mr. Daniel Rose.
Oh, for sure. And I think you hit it on the head like a number of years ago that when I'm in a healthy space, things get done and things just flow for me, so a healthy 7, I've got a system and I'm getting shit done,
Yep.
On the flip side of the Kings, fuck. It's a bit of a reality check in the mirror for sure.
Yep. I can relate, surprisingly enough.
Awesome, mate. Look, I'm really enjoying on this chat. I suppose I'm going to link to the Enneagram in the show notes if that's cool. I think it's great for people to go check it out. And I can't even remember how much it is. What, $100 or something like that. Not
the
even.
test is $14.
Yeah. I don't know why I had 97 in my head, but I was thinking 97. But $14. $14, and it's well worth doing it and having a bit more of an understanding of yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the other thing about it is, and this is where pointing back to the flow intelligence map, is the emotional intelligence component, which is both interpersonal and intrapersonal intelligence and awareness. Is it doesn't matter so much which map you use. It's offering the idea of using whatever maps make sense to you to use. And so to help explain maybe why you do what you do, rather than help explain the reasons why everyone else does what they do. And so I'd really caution people as they go down this path. It's whatever map, map's just another word for a personality type indicator, is useful for your own awareness, not to explain other people, but to explain yourself.
For sure. And just have an open mind and take it on board. There's no point saying I want to be a fucking 8 and you're a 2 or 1 or 5. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. If somebody's saying I want to be a fucking 8, they're probably an 8.
Yeah.
So.
That's a classic. Mate, I suppose, just to, there's a couple of things. I noticed you're doing a little bit of Wim Hof stuff at the moment, are you? Or you've been doing it for some time?
So my last bits of learning have gone down the path of the nervous system, to understand that a lot more, the autonomic nervous system. The book Breath by James Nestor was a great read, and offered a lot of insights into, which I'm aware of, it was just not having frameworks and systems for it, of how powerful the breath can be. And then working with Strong Fit sent me down the avenue of polyvagal theory as well. And so that allowed me to understand the autonomic nervous system from a different perspective. And now looking at, so part of the move for Functional Fitness Australia and Alpha Theta, which is my coaching business, is running retreats, building out a new facility that's larger, which includes a recovery room and also a working room / classroom, so that we can do things like ice baths, not for recovery, but more so for the practice of breath and anxiety, for a whole range of things. And so I purchased a Wim Hof book when I was in one of the bookstores, actually, signing one of my books, which is weird to say. And it was just time for me to read it. So, but Breath by James Nestor was a great read. This has been a good read so far. It's just another perspective of a man that's fucking entered the cold to find out more about himself.
Yeah, for sure. And look, it's quite funny because over the last month or so, it's popped up on my radar, and I've been jumping in the, a friend of mine's got a fucking custom made freezer, that he's rigged up, and I think last week I'm a bit fucking soft, so he dialed it up to 5 degrees rather than 2, just to get my shit on, and I'm enjoying at this point in time just once a week. Experiencing that. And it just so happened that, I've been going down that path, and, I was on your Instagram and it popped up. So certainly, align with that, and certainly doing a little bit more research in that myself as well.
Yeah. One of the fascinating things that I'm really finding, and this is what the core of my training and programming and communications all on, is actually neural health. And what I mean when I talk about neural health is a person's ability to access all components of their nervous system. That's actually accepting all ingredients of the Enneagram. It's looking at all variations of their nervous system within what's healthy based upon what's required at the task at hand. And a big part of that is learning how to navigate and breathe, because your breath is going to point to different parts of your nervous system and how you use them. And then also your nervous system is pointing towards structures of the body. Structures of the body is pointing towards personality structures. Like, you can map this left to right, and that's really quite fascinating. There's no gaps in the great chain of being. So that's what the heavy amount of body of my work is at the moment. So
yeah, awesome. I suppose I look forward to hearing more about it and seeing more about it, because like I said, I've just sort of started my journey in regards to that stuff, and I've been jumping on, as you recommended in a podcast a number of times, Strong Fit YouTube, and trying personally to decipher that in my own particular way, and playing around with a number of things there as well.
Yeah, fantastic.
But mate, let's I suppose, if people like what they heard today, we'll wrap it up if that's cool. Where can they find you?
The website Alpha Theta, that's Alpha THETA, alphathetaflow.com. For the gym, it's Funk Fitness, FUNC fitness.com.au. You can find me on Instagram as well. At the moment, it's at Whiskey Weights and Wisdom. That's looking to change in the next month with the release of the new modules for Alpha Theta, but that's what it is right now.
Yep.
And then also at the Funk Life.
For sure. And don't forget Petey's Instagram too.
Petey the Philosopher, eh?
Yeah, love it. Hey.
Yeah, that's P-E-A-T-Y. Petey the Philosopher.
Fantastic. Yeah, fantastic. Look, Dave, I really appreciate, once again, you're finding the time to chat to me today and giving our Dogs and Deadlifts listeners a bit of an insight on yourself, your philosophies, and potentially how they can work with you, and also grab a copy of your book. So once again, thank you very much, mate.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me on, mate. It's been great to catch up.
Not a problem. So guys, if you like what you heard today, please like, subscribe, and share this video, and I'll talk to you soon.